Assalamu alaikum, marhaba, namaste, and hello. Welcome to our Zoom webinar, Communication the Key to a Happier Marriage, presented to you by our NGO Rahma Institute based in USA. I would like to begin today's session with a dua. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما. O my Lord, open for me my chest, ease my task for me, and remove the impediment from my speech so that they may understand what I say. O my Lord, increase me in knowledge. Again, a very warm welcome to all of those who have joined us today. My name is Samia Sheikh, and I'm honored to be your host for this webinar. We've been truly overwhelmed by the response that we got for our previous session, Guide to Selecting a Spouse. Without any further delay, I would like to welcome our speaker, Brother Khalid Iqbal, who is the founder and director of Rahma Institute. Brother Khalid
Thank
Iqbal.
thank you so much, Sister Samia, for that introduction. A very, very warm welcome to everybody who has joined. We are honored to have you on this webinar, our second webinar on communication, the key to a happier marriage. We are overwhelmed by the response, as Samia said. People joining in from all over the world. Uh, we are so happy with your, not only with your contribution from the last webinar that you have given to us, your suggestions, they are welcome. I would encourage you to do the same for this one also by emailing us at info@rahma.org. Recognizing the diversity of the participant that we have today in this webinar, I just want to say this is based on Islam and Islamic values. Although I have tried my best to not to include too many Arabic terminology or quotes, but there are some, and I request and ask for your understanding. A little bit about Rahma. We are a nonprofit organization based in the United States. We have 35 years of experience doing marriage and premarital counseling. We offer several courses, including a very comprehensive premarital course, which is 8 hours in length. We deliver it in 5 different sessions. We also have 16 sessions, domestic violence and anger prevention course. This is based on the book that I have written, and we have a comprehensive parenting course. We serve our clients from all over the world using Zoom or Skype video conferencing. So let me introduce my team. You heard Sister Samia Sheikh. She is an associate from Dubai, and also Sister Aisha Faisal. She's also an associate from Islamabad. I want to thank both of them because without their involvement, this webinar and other programs that we do would not have been possible. So thank you to both of you. They just completed a course with us on premarital counseling. So if you, or for yourself, or for your children, if you need a course on premarital counseling, please feel free to contact them either in Dubai or in Islamabad, Pakistan. Some housekeeping rules. Please keep your microphone muted all the time throughout the program. We would love to have your written questions. Please submit them through the chat only, okay? And then we'll try and answer as many questions as we can. As I said before, you have given us some questions in your when you submitted your application, so we'll try and address as many as we can. I want you to close your eyes for a minute and think about a happy home. Probably what comes to your mind is a husband and wife with children laughing and playing. Uh, you know, a loving and caring couple, one that is respectful, merciful, attentive, happy, open-minded, affectionate, kind, and much, much more. When I think of a happy home, I see two main columns supporting the roof. One built on good communication and the other on trust. I feel that these are the two main aspects that brings the family together. One of my teacher gave a beautiful parable of a married couple sitting on a rowboat in a peaceful and tranquil lake, enjoying each other's company, both paddling equally to keep the boat sailing straight towards their destiny where they wanted to go. What happens is if one of them try to overpower the other, the boat will not go straight. Rather, it'll swirl around. This is how the boat of marriage is, where the two are equal and they share the responsibility equally. Life brings us many challenges, but a happy couple knows how to handle their differences and manage conflict. They always think of win-win rather than dwelling on win-lose kind of outcome to a conflict. They dwell on positivity and know how to dialogue together instead of yelling, shouting, or some even resort to violence. Husband and wife need to communicate, no matter whether they are happy or they are in a fight. They need to communicate about their children needs, about the health requirements, about family, friends, social life, and much, much more. I want to share with you the story of our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when his first incident of getting his prophethood. I'm sure many of you know the story, what happened when he was in the cave of Hira and angel Jibril came to him and gave him the glad tidings of his prophethood. He didn't know what happened. He was confused. He was really worried, not sure what has transpired. It is said that he rushed down to his wife Khatija, all confused and worried. He was shivering and he asked for her help. And how did she treated him was so beautiful. The first thing she did was to comfort him. She put blankets on him because he was shivering. And then he supported him with love and mercy. No, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have not gone crazy. You're not Majnun. Rather, you have been helpful. You have been so kind. You are so merciful to everybody. And then they did something unique that we can all learn from. She said, I don't know what has happened. Let us go and find the solution together. So the moral of the story is, it is okay for husband and wife to be vulnerable, to share their vulnerability with each other. It's okay to show your concern to each other, how worried you are, because life brings a lot of challenges. And then the spouse must support the other. Your spouse must be kind, using kind and gentle words to give comfort to each other And then lastly, look for solutions together. Make it our issue rather than his or her issue. Sometimes we look at and point finger at each other instead of supporting and helping each other. Before I talk about the topic of communication, let me talk a little bit about conflict, because marriage brings, as I said, a lot of challenges. Much of the time, remember this thing, this is the principle, much of the time, if a conversation on an issue starts with a negative statement, it will end up with a equal response. It might end up by counterattack by the other partner. Some end up in criticizing their partner, blaming the other, using you sentences. You always, or you never. These are absolute sentences which are not true, but we tend to use it often. Then there is also some people go on the defensive with a counterattack of their own. And what happens at that time when they go on the defensive, they bring in all the old resentment, all the old issues into the mix, and nothing gets resolved. And lastly, there is stonewalling. When your partner, instead of responding to what you're saying, instead of listening to what you're saying, instead of taking part in the conversation, they pretend being busy. And these days, phone is a big issue. They pretend playing on the phone, texting or whatever, or surfing. There are three kinds of marital issues, and this is by a researcher here in America by the name of John Gottman, a very well-known researcher here. And he says that there are three kinds of marital problems. One are the problems that are solvable. These are problems that are topic related and situational. Simple. Like, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Or are we going to go out somewhere or not? Or other minor things like that. Who's going to take the children for their sports event? Or who's going to drive here or go get the groceries, or things like that. These are topic related situational problems. There could be disagreement how to on these, and they, usually the couple come up with an ad hoc solution. Then there are other problems which are perpetual problems. His research shows that only 30% of the marital problems are solvable problems. The other 70% fall under the category of perpetual problems. Allah created us different. We think differently. There's difference between husband, how he thinks. There's difference between wife, how she thinks. And sometimes we tend to get our spouse to look at the world with our own eyes, change their way of thinking to ours. Now that does not really is a solvable solution. For example, one of the partner may be extrovert and love to socialize and go out, whereas the other partner is an introvert and does not like to go places. One like to spend a lot of time with their family, whereas the other one want to stay home. These are problems, and there are many others, and I'm going to go through a list of that. There are other ones also, like spending habits, for example. One could be a saver, the other would be a spender, or socializing, socializing, as I said before. One could be a very tidy person, whereas the other one is a disorganized. One always want to be on time, which is a big problem in our culture sometimes, whereas the other one always go late, or and they just, I was back home at one time, and we had an invitation for a marriage, and the time written on the invitation was, I remember, at 7 p.m., and the people would not even get up to get ready till about 9 p.m., or because that's the culture that we live in sometimes. And it bothers some of the partners sometimes, especially when they are here in this part of the world. The third issue is some of the perpetual problems that never get addressed, and now they have become a chronic and painful issue in the relationship. Most of these problems are uh, deeply entrenched into the personality of the individual. So, how do we address these problems? How do we? Especially the one that are gridlock perpetual problems. I recommend, and this is not only my recommendation, but also of the other experts, that the couple should at least tend to discuss and try to address these problems, even if they admit their failure to resolve, even if they admit that these are problems that are with us, but at least discuss them, at least say, okay, we have tried and we have failed. I want to present to you a saying of Hazrat Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, many years ago, over 1400 years ago, who said, life is changing. Look at addressing your problems in a unique way of your own. Look at them from a different angle, because the time has changed. And this is what he said when? At the time of the Prophet, over 1400 years ago. There is a beautiful, uh, interesting principle that I came across that I would like to share with you. The course of a conflict is not determined by the person who initiates it, but by the person responding to it. Let me repeat, the course of a conflict is not determined by the person who initiates it, but by the person responding to it. What does it mean? If one is angry, and this is what my wife actually taught me, and I would like to share what she has mentioned is, she always says, instead of dwelling on the negative, why don't we just take time out and revisit a difficult issue later in a respectful and considerate manner. This will help calm down anybody who want to initiate a conflict, who might say things in the wrong way, who might have worries or about a certain issue. Let them calm down and let's discuss them. Even if we agree to disagree, that's fine. Let me talk about communication. That's our topic for this morning here and it's afternoon in many parts of the world to our listeners. There are two kinds of communication techniques that we teach. One is effective communication, and the other one is productive communication. Allah has given us one mouth and 2 ears. If we learn to listen more than what we say, because sometimes when we are into effective communication, our mouth tend to speak faster than what our brain can either process or what our heart can even feel. One pushing for effective communication is saying, just listen to me. I'm the one. It could be attacking or blaming type of communication. Controlling, trying to control the other person. Using sarcastic remarks, which are very destructive, mostly destructive. Loud and aggressive tone. Sometimes people go into other ways of communication, go into silent treatment. The person always, whatever technique that they try to use, they always say to themselves, I am always right and you are wrong. Sometimes they open old wounds, bring out old resentments, and that never helps. What we teach and what we recommend is productive communication. Productive communication is based on issues rather than pointing fingers at the other partner. It is result oriented. It is based on the respect of others. Listening actually covers half the battle. Do you know that? Sometimes you just listen to your partner and their heart, whatever is in their heart, whatever is in their mind, whatever they want to say, just it lightens up, and that's it. Sometimes we recommend to express feelings through I sentences instead of pointing fingers at the other person and using you sentences. The approach should be win-win approach rather than I win and you lose. These are the couples who look towards results together, find solutions together. They use the right time and the right way to communicate. And I have a slide later on this. Their choice of words are very careful, because once something gets out of your mouth, you can never retrieve it back. And it hurts when you say something bad to your partner. Sometimes there are sacrifices that are needed, but they think long term, and it's good for the family. In my family here, we just had a discussion with my children and their spouses and the grandchildren about school opening, for example. It's an important issue for many parents. Many parents are looking at whether to send children to school or to continue with distance learning. I recommend bring the whole family together to communicate so that you can uh, come up with a good solution to the issue. Very interesting statistics that will surprise many, I'm sure. It's from Albert Mehraban. He was a pioneer researcher of body language, and he researched on a number of his patients. And he came up with this statistics that spoken words that we come out of our mouth is only 7% of the communication. whereas the unspoken either tone of voice or body language is the rest 93%. That's a lot, isn't it? Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to not only choose his words very carefully, but he used to make sure his body language was so supportive that the person listening to him would think, I'm the most important person at this moment in front of our Prophet. I remember a story where a young girl came to talk to him, and he kneeled down in front of her so that their eye was at the same level. And he approached her in a very affectionate and kind way. So let's say there has been a problem that has been bothering you. You have been up all night thinking about it, just cannot get it out of your mind. And is it a good thing to talk about it first thing in the morning when your spouse is ready to and rushing out to go to work? What we recommend is, instead of doing that, tell your spouse, honey, I have this issue that I've been thinking. I couldn't sleep last night. It been really bothering me. Can we set a time together tonight when you come back from work, and let's keep an hour or two for discussing this, or this Saturday, or whenever the time is. So set up a time, the right time to discuss the issue, to give it enough importance. Then we also recommend to select sometime. Talking on an important issue at home might not be a good idea, especially if there was a argument just the night before in the same location. You know, sometimes it's a good idea to go to a different place. Some couples, they go to a coffee shop, for example, or some people go for a drive where they have captive audience of discussing and listening to each other. Then the right environment, what I mean by that is it should be without any interruption whatsoever. No gadgets, no phone calls, no texting, no internet. Just pure looking at each other and concentrating and addressing the issue. And then the right approach. Remember, when you say to your spouse in the morning, this is what is on my mind, that give your spouse and yourself enough time to research it, how to approach it, how best to present it, how best, what are some of the solutions that are possible. Give each other some time to research it and approach it for the benefit of the family and for your future. So, enhancing your communication. Very, very important. Number one in my book is respect and appreciation of each other. Remember the story of Prophet Muhammad that I mentioned to you. Let me share with you another story of Hazrat Umar, may Allah be pleased with him. He was the second Khalifa of Islam. And what happened was that this one of the pupil from his Khilafah came to him, wanted to complain about his wife because his wife was very aggressive and all of that, and he thought he would talk to Umar as he was the leader. When he came to his home, what he heard was loud noises coming from inside. Omar's wife was upset at something and was yelling at Omar. So the man said, well, how can he help me when he has his own problems? He probably wouldn't be able to help me. So he started to walk back. And at that time, Omar came out of the house and saw him and called him and said, you came to me. Is there something that I can help you with? And he said, I came here for this and this reason, wanted to complain to you about my wife, but I see you have a bigger problem than myself. Omar said, no, I don't. She is the mother of my wife. She takes care of me. She helped me all the time. If she gets upset once in a while, shouldn't I treat her with respect and appreciation at that time? So remember, if you treat each other with respect and appreciation, that will solve so many of your communication issues. Remember to address the issue jointly. Make it our issue rather than his or her. Always keep the bigger picture in mind. You know, uh, sometimes we behave to be a victim. Oh, I'm always wrong. Oh, I know you're always right. I know that whatever. No, that's not the solution. Take charge. Be an equal partner to the issue. There are so many cases that we are getting these days, especially because of the COVID situation. The family is at home. The anger is becoming a major issue. And inshallah, we'll be doing a program on anger management sometime in the near future. So that is when the victim sometimes they do not know, they are confused, they just do not know what to do. Don't take charge of the situation, address uh, and inshallah things will be better if you are equal partner. That comes to my next point: together find the solutions. We teach when you use you sentences, you are always, or you never, or you did this, or you, those are aggressive sentences. Those are not the ones that assist or help. We recommend to you start using I sentences where you say your feelings. I feel sad. I feel upset. I feel whatever your inner feelings are. Once again, turn it, the whole objective is to turn it into a homely thing, we and us instead of me and you. Can't, resolve an issue if you are not open-minded. If you are closed-minded, you have already made up your mind. As many a times it happens in certain cultures, by the way. People come in from a certain background, certain culture, where men feel and husbands feel that they are the dominating. They use sometimes the verses from the Quran in the wrong way, especially the verse from uh, Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse 34. And based on that, they are aggressive towards their spouses, towards their wives. No, you can't be. Approach the issue with an open mind. You cannot resolve an issue unless you have empathy. Empathy is something when you put yourself into the shoes of your spouse. Just try to understand their point of view. Just try to understand why and they're thinking the way they're thinking. We recommend that there are many issues in a marital uh, uh, family. In a family, there are many issues. Uh, Pick your battles. Let go some of the minor issues, unimportant issues, and work on the ones which are really worth working on. If we dwell on all small issues, you know, life will never move on. So this is what we say, keep the bigger picture in mind and long-term consequences, keep it in mind. Remember one thing, sometimes we live in a society where we feel our issue should be addressed instantly. That's how we are. We go to a restaurant and we want instant food, you know, and that's not how issues are resolved. Sometimes issues take time to resolve. Give them time. Give your spouse the time that he or she needs to, uh, you know, make the changes that you have decided. And lastly, I strongly recommend, never, never, never shut the door behind you. What do I mean by that? Sometimes there are, you know, you think about an issue and you realize, okay, maybe I can make some changes. Maybe this is, she's right, or maybe he's right, or maybe whatever. This maybe give your partner and yourself a chance to wiggle and come out with, instead of uh, uh, talking about absolute term, because there is no such thing as absolute in this world. So always leave the door open is what I say. There's some principles of communication. Hold your tongue. Whatever negative comes out of your mouth hurt, especially when you say it to a loved one. Although you might say it's only the 7%, but that 7% is a lot. We did a survey, interesting experiment with the workshop that I do, and I asked the community members who are present over there to write something that negative that they have either said or did to their loved ones. And they do, and on a small piece of paper, and we collect them. And some of them, people say things to their mothers, to their wives, mostly to their spouses and whatnot, and so on and so forth. And my question to them is, what if some stranger walks in there and say the same thing to them? How would you react? Would you allow them to say it? Same thing, exactly. And almost all of them say, absolutely not. I said, what then what gives you the right to say the negative things about your spouse? You know, what comes out of from out the mouth of a loved one hurts even more than what if it is said, the same thing is said by a stranger. And even more hurtful is how you say it, the aggressive tone, your body language, whatever. That's even more. Remember, 93%. Listening attentively is half the battle. Believe me, you know, after COVID, what I did was I announced within our community, if somebody is having depression or whatever, they can call and we'll have a, you know, and I got a call from all over the world. And all I did was listen to the people. And when they left, they said, Subhanallah, we feel relieved now. So listening attentively, that's how our Prophet used to teach us. What do you mean by listening attentively is from time to time, you acknowledge that you're listening, and by paraphrasing it, that this is what you understand what is being said. Is that correct? And lastly, as I said before, have a structured communication for important matters. These are something, once again, very important, I think, between husband and wife, especially, or even within the family, with the children. These days are COVID, we are all stuck at home. We cannot go to the masjid in many places, the masajid are closed for regular prayers. So we pray together. And much of the time, that brings us not only close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also close to each other. So praying together is a very good phenomena, a very good action to take. And then after the prayer, we make dua together. Sometimes I lead it, sometimes my wife leads it, sometimes some of our children leads it. We say our dua loud, and everybody pitches in and remind each other. It brings what is in our heart. We make dua for ourselves, for each other, for the family, for our extended family members, for our neighbors, for yeah, our mm, mm, family members in Pakistan or wherever they might be. So this is how we share feelings and emotions. We share dreams together. We think of something and we say, let's talk about it with. I love to talk, and my wife always sit with me and listen to me very attentively. And I do try to do the same thing, although I'm not very good at listening to her, and I must admit that. Share love and share gifts with each other. I recommend that good communication is when you have structured approach. Plan something nice for the two of you. When you want to spend quality time, and quality time is something where two people sit together and enjoy each other's company. No phone, no gadgets, no internet. Maybe watch TV if you want, but don't, if you're watching TV, don't sit on the opposite corners of the sofa. Sit together and plan each other. Ask yourself constantly, how can I bring happiness into my home? What can I do to make my spouse happy? And this goes both ways, by the way. When was the first time I got gift for my spouse? Go for a walk. The weather is nice these days. Sometimes hot, but go for a walk together. Watch a movie together. Play games together. Go for a drive. This is, by the way, our favorite, me and my wife's, that we go for a drive. And now we talk about our children and grandchildren. We love it. So my last slide, or second last slide, I should say. 7 action items for this week. For those who are present, number 1, have a dinner date. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't go out, so have a dinner date within your home, okay, because of the COVID. Bring something nice for your spouse, especially husbands, if you are there and if you're listening, bring flowers. I'm sure your wife loves flowers. Surprise each other with a gift, no matter how small. It doesn't matter what it is, but surprise each other. Surprises sometimes bring in a new excitement into the life. Sometimes we shy away by saying thank you or I love you. Don't. Express your feelings openly. Ask each other, what can I do to make your day easy for you? Especially husbands, this is for you. Go help your wife in whatever chores that there are. And then what can you do to put smile on his or her face? I want to thank you all for listening, for being patient, and really appreciate it. We hope that this brings peace and tranquility into your home and in your marriage. The information that was presented was out of my sincere passion to see our family succeed. And this is our goal at Rahma Institute. We also hope that you'll join us in our next and future webinars and promote them, inshallah. And thank you. If you want to contact me, this is my information. Email me info@rahma.org. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Samia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Khalid, for this amazing and enriching learning experience. I hope we all had a great time and learned a lot today. If we truly understand and implement these things in our relationship, we are sure to benefit from it. Your wisdom has been from years of experience, and many couples have really benefited. And to move on to the questions, we had received a lot of questions, some of which we have already addressed in the presentation. Some were of similar nature, so we have clubbed them together. And few of the questions were a bit personal and were very we need counseling, so we request them to contact us. But before we do that, I would like to ask the participants to just vote what should be our next topic. We have two strong contenders as topics. One is anger management and the other is parenting. So I would request you all to please write in the comment section, or sorry, the chat section, which topic you'd like us to have the next webinar on. I shall just wait for a minute or so for the votes to get in. Please mention in the chat section which topic you'd like for the next webinar, parenting or anger management. Thank you so much for your votes. We'll prepare accordingly. Before beginning the questions, I just have to mention that we are not going to take all the questions. There's few of them which were not covered. So one of the first questions that was asked was, what do I do if my feelings are hurt and I want to fix problem, but my husband tunes out, withdraws with news, work, politics, and doesn't even want to talk or acknowledge my feeling or that there is even a problem? Sheikh,
Um,
yeah.
Thank you so much for the question. This is something which sometimes happens. It's called stonewalling. When you're trying to address something and your partner or your husband, in this particular case, is not responding to you at all, not even acknowledging that you have an issue or whatever you're saying. This is just like, as we say in Urdu, jaake patthar se sar takrane wali baat hai, aise hi. So this is sometimes what happens. Um, and you know that it is sad uh, to hear this. Uh, what I would say is uh, try to convince them, try to use the techniques that we have mentioned, that if it is an important use, is begin with an issue that might be common to both of you. This is what I would recommend. That would interest him and get his attention, and try to set up a time and present it in a way that he would listen, and without offending him in that way, and that might start the process. I'm saying might because in many of the cases, some people are so hardened that they just do not want to get involved in listening to the issues. Um, be careful. Sometimes some of the husbands tune out when they think that the wife is bickering a lot or the spouse is just bringing out old issues and whatnot. So just be aware. Otherwise, counseling is could be another way to resolve it.
That's so true. That's so true for all of us. And we've all faced this problem sooner or later in our lives. Another question is, what type of communication skills should I master when I'm talking to my spouse so that I'm able to communicate effectively?
Well, we discussed a number of points on how to communicate. I would recommend master productive communication skills. And we went through several points on them. Uh, Dwell on the positive, dwell on the long term, dwell on something which is of interest to the entire family, and never initiate a conversation, in my opinion, that includes finger pointing, uh, putting the other partner down. Any communication that start with respect of each other will turn into a positive communication. When there is no respect, that ends up not being communicated well. I would recommend and suggest think about what we have discussed in the presentation and work on productive communication skills.
Okay, thank you for the answer. There's one more question which says, how can I create an atmosphere where I can feel open to share my feelings without fearing to be judged or being misunderstood by my spouse? I think this would be more applicable for couples who've just started out to be together, newly married couples. So, how do we create an
Well,
atmosphere?
yes, you're right, Sister Samia. Uh, for them, also, it's very, very interesting. The concept of going for a honeymoon. That is such a beautiful concept. Whoever has come up with that, uh, when you go for a honeymoon, have a good time, get to know each other, get to understand each other, work with each other, and then uh, also on the other hand, I would say mm, this is a difficult question, by the way.
Yeah.
When there is somebody who is judging you, whatever you're saying, all the time, it puts you on an edge all the time, and it's very difficult. Um, Judging leads to misunderstanding, and judgment of others leads to issues unresolved, especially the perpetual turn into perpetual issues. So I would recommend once again, uh, you know, try to work on this through respect and trying to gain mutual understanding. But it's a difficult one, I must say, and it needs to be addressed. Once again, probably through counseling if it continues that way.
Okay, thank you so much for the answer. The next question is from a brother. How do you deal with the situation when you're away from your spouse for many years due to job which is in a foreign country? Basically talks about long distance relationship, and maybe many of us are suffering because of the COVID-19 situation and who are in long distance relationships. So how do we deal with it, brother?
Long distance relationship is very difficult, I must say. And many of the our brothers and sisters, they are suffering for a longer period of time. Now, having said that, we are also very blessed of the technology that we have. I suggest use the technology to your advantage. Okay. I recommend to the couples who come to me with this issue is to schedule a video call with each other. Now, the video call does not should not only go around, how was your day and how are you, and you share your feeling, or cry in front of each other, or say no. That's not. It can happen that way, but I suggest uh, start activities together. There are couples who have who there was a couple who used to live. One of them used to live in Middle East, the other one in back in Pakistan, and they started activities together, like starting a cooking. They used to cook together, for example, or they used to play board games together, or they used to watch some show together. The technology allows us to do all of these things. So use the technology to your advantage in making the long distance relationship meaningful, that your hearts come together through activities. And that's what I recommend. It's no easy solution, by the way, but
Yes.
it could be one of the solutions.
Thank you so much. One more question. There is a difference of lifestyles between us. How do we communicate difference of opinions positively?
Uh, Once again, a difficult one. I'm not sure what lifestyle differences of lifestyle means. If that means different personalities, if somebody has been raised in one type of lifestyle as compared to the other, then it their uh, issues usually turn into perpetual issues
True.
that sometimes are not solvable, because until unless one is willing to change and accommodate the other person, the other's lifestyle, it turns into those kind of issues, and it's hard, no question about it. Once again, uh, I suggest through communication, try and work, understand the differences, acknowledge them, that yeah, we have these differences, we have these differences of understanding. How can we resolve it? And just sometimes acknowledgement of failure is enough for the other person to empathize with you. So this is what I would recommend. Um, um, once again, I'm not sure what lifestyle mean, but I hope that I've translated it into the right way for that
Yes.
questionnaire. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have few more questions. Thank you for patience. The next question being, does communication change in a marriage of past 10 years? Is it expected to change? It's basically question about people who've been married for many years. We've had the same questions being asked in different ways. So does the communication change after maybe more than 7 to 8 years of marriage? And is it expected to change?
You're asking somebody who has been married for almost 50 years, and we are
Mashallah, mashallah.
yes, it does. It does. People mature. Okay.
Yes,
Uh, uh, the life changes. The challenges become different. Many of the people, we live a dynamic life.
true.
Okay. People change jobs, they might change location, they might change, move to a different home. All of these, they might have children, the children would grow. All of this bring in new challenges. So the communication styles also changes. The amount of attention that the husband and wife give to each other also changes because of the addition of new family members and so on and so forth. So the answer is yes. Can people adapt to it? Definitely yes. Life is a learning experience, and marriage is no different. So learn. Today we are so blessed to have so many learning opportunities available in how we can better our life as a married couple, whether of 1 year or 10 years or uh, 50 years, doesn't matter.
Thank you so much for that insight. How do we, the next question, sorry, how do we deal with the difference of opinion in a marriage in a best possible way?
Hmm. Having difference of opinion is normal.
Mm.
Two people, when they come together, they think differently, you know, especially men thinks differently, woman thinks differently from a different angle. And that actually, this diversity should bring in better life between husband and wife as long as they understand each other, you know. So I think that the differences of opinion is good. It brings in a better solution, a unique solution. Remember the saying of Hazrat Ali, may Allah be pleased with him. What he said was, do not uh, think about a solution the same way as it was done when you were young, because the time has changed. Go with the changing times and find a unique solution for yourself that you can look back and say, yes, we did it.
True.
So take it as a challenge. This is what I would recommend.
Thank you. And a very interesting question that has come from a brother, which says, why do most of us fail in communication with our partners?
Why do we fail?
Yeah, like it's so important. The most important part in a marriage is communication, but still majority of us fail to communicate effectively, productively with our partners. So why is the question the brother has asked?
I'm so happy that it's coming from a brother.
Yeah.
You know, I'm proud of you, brother, because I
Mhm.
sometimes think of it myself. How is my communication with my family members? You know, how is my communication? How has it been with my wife and whatnot? You know, husband and wife should learn to grow together. Okay, they should be there as equal partners. And when you are there as equal partners with good trust and respect of each other, then the communication aspect will take care of itself, inshallah. There are so many different techniques of productive communication that we have discussed it, and believe me, it is beneficial and it helps. So learn to discuss with and communicate productively. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, thank you. There are two more questions to go. The second last one is, how do we resolve conflicts in a marriage relationship? Basically, how do we resolve conflicts?
How do we resolve conflicts in marital relationship? Actually, it's a topic in itself. Okay, it's a difficult one, and uh, uh, conflicts. We have to realize and understand conflict do happen in life.
True.
Yeah, every day is brings in new challenges. Every day bring in. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says in Surah Nahl, "Wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan." Okay, what it means is when you argue with them in the best possible way, ahsan way. Hasan is the superlative degree of communication. Okay, this is what the Quran teaches us. So I would recommend uh, spend more time in listening to your partner. When you're listening, uh, you know, the best way to listen is to join hands if you can, or uh, uh, be close to your partner. The best way to listen is to acknowledge and um, ask, "Is this what you're saying? Am I understanding you correctly?" The respond in that way. Uh, I recommend join together in and spend time in defining the issue rather than jumping right down to solution. This is how I think it should be. No, just discuss the problem and define so that you have equal understanding, same understanding of what the issue is. And then uh, lastly, make it our issue rather than his or her issue. Uh, I again once again would say respect is one of the key of how you handle your conflict.
True. The last question is again coming from a brother and very interesting. Is debating a type of communication?
I would recommend to the brother, never, never, never debate with your wife. You're going to lose. Yes, it is. Debating is a type of communication, but not I don't recommend it in marriage, healthy marriage, because when you debate, you have two opposing sides you are on one side, you're not unless it's a healthy debate, which sometimes people do. There's nothing wrong with it, but at the same time, I would not recommend that as a technique to be used for marital communication.
That's it. Alhamdulillah, we are done with all the questions, and we do not have any questions coming in the chat box. Just give me a minute. Some of them were already covered. Okay, that's it. We have few messages. There is a question, brother. What if somebody goes for extramarital relationship? I'm not sure if it would come under communication, but if you have any thoughts to share on this question.
Extramarital relationship is extremely, um, it's sad. It's something that usually it's one of the leading reasons for marital discord and marriage issues and divorce.
Yes.
Um, I would suggest to them, being a Muslim, if they are into that, to go and read from Surah Nur, that's chapter 24 in the Quran, and you'll find the answer there by yourself. Extramarital affairs is such a sad affair that sometimes people engage in, and it results in destruction of the family, result in destruction of home. Uh, so if you are in that situation, um, all I can say is be aware of your actions. If you are yourself, if it's your partner, then I feel bad and I feel sad. We do have cases that comes to us on this issue, and it's hard to deal with them. It's very hard to deal. They usually end up in divorce, and majority of the cases, because the trust is not there. The trust is lost, and this kind of trust is lost forever.
True.
Can it be managed? Can it be worked on? Depends upon how forgiving the partner is, how they look at it, the family, how many children there are. There are many factors that comes into play.
True. Thank you so much. The brother, there are two more questions which are not very related to communication. Do I still go ahead and ask it, or do we send them a mail later on?
Well, I think we could spend another 5 minutes
Okay.
and address if it's okay with everybody.
Okay. So a sister is mentioning that mm, the husband is after the kid is born, the husband is doesn't want the child, and he's feeling insecure uh, about the relationship, and he doesn't take a stand for his wife and kid who is just 6 months old. So the sister wants you to talk about it, if you could.
Well, this is something that I cannot comment on it unless there is more information available,
Sure.
because it's such a personal matter as
Yes.
to why or what is the reason, what is going through the mind of the husband, and why is he behaving the way he is. Uh, so it's hard to comment on something that you only have, uh, and this is such a sensitive matter
Mm.
that if I comment one way or another
Yes.
and without full information, so I apologize that I would not be able to comment on something like that.
Okay. There is a question from a brother. If husband gets upset, what should be the reaction of what should be the reaction of his wife? How should she deal with husband's anger, and or if he's upset? Brother wants to know.
Why does brothers keep on putting me into this situation? A good question. A good question. Uh, Brother, ask yourself. This is what I would suggest. Ask yourself. It mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that uh, you get upset. You are upset with your wife, and you're upset with her, and you abuse her and whatnot, and then you want her to come in bed with you at night. How fair is that? You have to ask yourself that question yourself. And if there is a good reason to be upset, then the talk and have a fair discussion. Maybe there is a whatever the issue is, help each other resolve it. This is what I would recommend. This is what good couples do. This is what our Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his wife. By the way, our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his wife also used to have disagreements. Okay, and it's all written. It's all available to us. If you read them, how our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or his daughter Fatima and Ali used to have problems. They had issues. How they addressed and how they resolved, there's so much lesson in it for all of us. So communicate with each other, talk to each other. The issues are not going to get resolved. Whatever is upsetting you is not going to get resolved until unless you take the initiative and talk about it and resolve it. Maybe there is a genuine reason for it. Maybe there's something. So that's all that I want to say. Once again, uh, I would not say don't get upset at each other because that's natural. It happens all the time. But everything is resolvable, in my opinion. Allah knows best.
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you. There's one more question, last question for the evening, but I'm again not sure if it falls under communication, but still I'd ask it. I have seen this, sister says, I have seen after engagement, boys and girls start chatting, etc. on phone till marriage. Is it correct?
Let's one like in from Islamic perspective, okay.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to talk about it from Islamic perspective here. Okay, there's a concept called khalwa. Okay, that is a boy and the girl alone. Okay, it's said that if there is a boy and a girl alone in a space, in a room or in a space, the third one is shaitan. Okay, so having said that, at the same time, what is the purpose of this chat and this talk? If the purpose of the chat and or whatever it is to get to know each other, that's allowed, by the way. Get to know each other, get to find about each other, get to share information that are relevant to the future married life and whatnot, then that's common, that's allowed. But sometimes people start to share information that is very personal, that is very, uh, you know, uh, too personal. And I've seen cases where the couple got engaged, they start to send each other pictures and all these personal information and whatnot, and then the engagement fell apart. Guess what happened? The girl especially was devastated because now there is her personal pictures and her personal information is in the hand of a person who is no longer going to be her husband.
True.
Okay, so be aware of what you're saying and what you're chatting and whatever you're doing. Be aware of it. It's up to a certain extent. It's allowed, but on the other side, uh, just be careful. I would say always keep in mind the concept of halwa that there is in Islam. Uh, I don't know. It's a difficult one, but it is. I know it's happening all the time, but it's a difficult one. There's another case that I had. They were chatting with each other, just like boyfriend, girlfriend uh, type of situation. And then they got married, and the husband found out, and now they are having issues. All of these things, I don't know. All right.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. I think the question was answered. Alhamdulillah. So we'd like to end our conclude our session here. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for answering these questions with so much consideration and patience. Indeed, it was a great webinar, and I would like to thank each and every participant for joining us. Like the previous time, please share your comments and feedback, and it helps us be better. And we look forward to your participation in the next webinar as well, and hope you spread the word to your family and friends. And have a great time, and try and implement these tips that brother has shared with us today. Apply them in your life, and if you benefit, please let us know. You can mail us at info@rehma.org, rehma having 2 a, and you can also send us mail on Rehma Institute, rehma.institute@gmail.com. Till then, bye and take care. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much, everybody.